a friend of mine, their father, who was in his late 60s, he got a job with the casinos, and they trained him on how all this stuff works. And when he came back from that training, you know, I was at a dinner where he was, and I asked him about gambling. He says, look, I just got back from training. I saw how it works. You cannot control your impulses. Most people cannot control it. I would just stay away because they've got you. The system has you.
It's the same as you won on the slot machine. But the difference with that is that in the slot machine, you pay with money, right? So when the money finishes, you finish playing, or you finish before because you say, okay, that's enough. But with social media, the feed, which is where you will find all your posts, it's an infinite feed. It doesn't finish. So potentially you could go on at infinite. And that's why people, they say, oh, I'm gonna spend 10 minutes, and then they spend 4 hours. Because it all depends on the strength of the stimuli and the duration of the stimuli. And actually with video games, because actually we can learn a lot from addiction, because if you learn their system, you can learn how to break their system.
Hi, this is Sifu Slim, author of The Aging Athlete. In this book, you're going to get to hear about 2 different groups of former high-performance athletes. One group, which is made up of 90% of the former athletes, does not do physical activity on a regular basis and tends to suffer the consequences of a sedentary lifestyle. The other group, which is made up of 10% of the former athletes, is doing physical activity on a regular basis and tends to thrive through the aging process, or at least has a better chance at coping with the aging process. We could have taken these folks to a lab and done all kinds of tests on them. Instead, we slowed them down and sat them down and asked them, in their own words, to describe why they are wired the way they are, so that we all, former athletes and non-athletes, can use some of their inspirational and motivational and mindset lessons in our own lives. I hope you pick up a copy today. You can go to theagingathlete.com, and when you have a chance to read it, I'd love to hear back from you to find out what your thoughts are on the stories of these aging athletes.
Hi there, Sifu Slim here, and today is part 2. Sifu speaking with Ayoub on pain, comfort, and the pain-pleasure connection. And we're going to talk about the mind, the body, and the spirit, and what that means on our journey, and how to operate with these different impulses and perhaps long-enduring discomfort or pain. It's not often that we hear of pleasure being long and enduring. So over to Ayoub for a hello, and we'll get this conversation started.
Hello, Sifu. Hello, everybody. And I hope, and I'm sure you will like this episode.
Part 2. So if you missed part 1, it doesn't matter if you watch this one first, but take a look at part 1. That's on the Real Show with Sifu Slim YouTube channel, and we hope you find something entertaining and useful in that conversation. So you mentioned PSU, Ayoub. Do you want to remind people what that is and how you've been using that to help in your coaching of people who have certain addictions?
Yeah, basically what the first thing that we do is we look at the stimulation that a person has in his life. So what I like to do is I literally create 2 columns, and I map out their behaviors. So for example, do they listen to music? Yes. Do they play video games? Yes. Do they use maybe drugs? Yes. And those are all stimulants. And the main problem with stimulants is that you are getting something without giving back anything. So you are getting pleasure, which will be, let's say, for example, you go to a store and you buy something, imagine that everything that you get it for free. That's what happens. However, since nature is quite fair in this mechanism, you have to pay it back sooner or later. And the more you wait, the more you have to pay. And the payback is a craving. So when you crave something, that's pain. Like you feel painful, it feels painful. So you need to, what you do, you either let it pass. There are techniques. So an example of technique is called the urge surfing. So you will surf your urge. So for example, let's say you have an urge to eat. If you wait 10 minutes, it will pass. Like you will not die, I promise. So for addiction, it's similar. You have like two parts, like to recover, which is the abstinence part, in which you stay away from what you're trying to quit. And then you have the replacement part, which is putting in systems such that you basically pay your debt. And I call it dopamine debt, because you're getting dopamine for free, while normally, if you go back a bunch of years, to get that dopamine, you will need to do the work. You will need to put in the effort. And that's the problem right now. It's every, let's say, human primary behavior or primary need has been stripped down from the effort part. So that's why it becomes addictive. So that's why you have people addicted to alcohol, addicted to adult content, addicted to video games, because there is no, it's like they mimic a basic human need, by they strip it away from the effort part. And that makes it extremely addictive, because imagine you have to work on something and you have video games, like you have to take the decision. Like we don't know it, we don't see it, but the brain is actually making some complex calculations, let's say, but they really come down to two things. So how much progress I can make, which is registered as pleasure at the end of the day, with the least amount of effort possible. And I mean, I don't need to tell you the answer between putting in the work or playing a video game. And there, what happens is that to decide to do the work, we use willpower. But the problem with willpower is that it's really finite. So after a while, your willpower will be 0. So imagine you have a battery of a phone. So your willpower is like the battery of a phone. So after a while, what will happen is that you will not have any willpower left. And that's why willpower in quitting bad habit doesn't work. It works for 2 days, maybe a week, but then it doesn't work. You need systems. And yeah, that's how people get addicted, unfortunately.
Yeah, I see one way we could help Ayoub is doing a call-in program on the internet where we talk to parents and people who are addicted to, let's just pick one thing, video games. So we have a few hundred people calling in, and we list the program, we list the brain chemistry, we list some steps for assisting people with that addiction. Some people need just baby steps in the beginning. Some people have already been working through those baby steps, and they need the next step to get to a higher level of addiction avoidance and tapping into their willpower, tapping into other activities. And one of the things that I remind people is it's not okay to just say no. You have a void. Let's say it was 4 hours on video games. What are you going to put in those 4 hours? So if you're still on your computer, and that's the thing that you were using, that's the mechanism you were using to watch or to participate in a video game scenario, it's too tempting. So what I like to tell people is find something that's engaging, where you're being supervised or assisted, and that lights up some of the same sensory parts of your brain, the amygdala, the neofrontal cortex, all of these things, and connects that with your body, with your spirit, your karma, your personal drive, your ability to thrive. And the one that I go to immediately, because it's so reasonably priced on the one hand, or free if you join a club of people just sharing their gift. And it has all those other elements that I just talked about is martial arts. And I like all martial arts, especially I'm in favor of the ones that take you on that journey step by step and don't push you too quickly into things where you're going to hurt your mind, body, and spirit, but you're going to grow with that practice. And the one I've been doing since 1997 is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Sambo and Jiu-Jitsu and grappling. And, you know, I have told people that my typical amount of injuries is 4 per year. Could be a bloody nose, a bloody lip, a sore shoulder, a sprained ankle, but none of these things that I just mentioned have been permanent. And so you recover from those and you go back into it. And now as I'm an older person, I try to get injured 0. So I tell people that's my goal. What are you in here for? I'm in here to learn from you and to take it easy. How about that? So I'm not trying to dominate other people like I might have done 10 years ago. I'm really trying to enjoy the art, to keep moving, because I'm in a different phase of my life right now. And being able to walk and not have my neck broken is more important now than it ever was. So tell me what you think, Ayoub, about filling that void in terms of what you did. You were addicted from 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 6 o'clock in the evening. Have you looked into filling that void, and how do you coach people about that?
Yeah, for sure. That's an integral part of my program, which is depending on the stimuli that let's say they are used to. It's to find a good replacement, which is, I mean, martial arts is definitely one of them, or even the gym, because it all depends on the strength of the stimuli and the duration of the stimuli. And actually with video games, because actually we can learn a lot from addiction, because if you learn their system, you can learn how to break their system. So for instance, games are really good because you get the impression that you're making a lot of progress really fast, and that's not easily replicable in real life. So what you do, and that's why lifting weights or even martial arts are really good at that, you apply the same concept in your martial art. So you gamify your martial art. So you say, for example, I have to hit, I don't know, like 10 triangle chokes. And if I can do it, then I can go to the next level, in which I'll do it a bit faster, just a bit. And with that, you replicate the same mechanism. But the good part is that, and that's called gamification, like you can apply it literally for everything. I help parents help their children apply it to homework. So instead of doing math homework, they were improving their focus skill. So if they did 10 math expression well, then it means that their focus skills, they were improving. And that's why reframing is so important. And yeah, it's the main thing is really understanding, because what's lacking more, it's knowledge. And when you have the knowledge, you can use it at your advantage. So that's what I will do. I would replace 4 hours of video games with maybe 2 hours of working out, and even 2 hours of chilling. And with chilling, I mean just resting.
Good points. I was watching Robert Sapol, done a lot of work with animals, especially baboons in Africa, and humans, and studying how the brain works and teaching about it. And he talked about the chimpanzees, where they give them reward 100% of the time for doing something, and they test the dopamine and they graph it. And so you give them the reward, the graph goes up like that. Now, if you drop it to giving them a reward only 50% of the time, and you test the dopamine levels, it goes off the charts, the spike in dopamine, right? So gambling, you go to a casino, you see you're going to win, I don't know, 1 out of 6 times on certain games, 1 out of 50 on other games, you know, who knows? I'll have to look at the statistics on that. But when I first, as a young person, went to a casino in my 20s, I experienced, I started winning and I saw people near me who were losing, and I thought I was, having such a great time because I'm winning. But the machine and the system of the casinos know that over time they're going to win. They can outlast us. They have unlimited supply of funds, and we have limited supply of funds. So many people will gamble down to their last dollar and then have to call their significant other or their friends or family to say, hey, I need a bus ticket home because I'm out of money. So they have to wire them money or do something, put money in their account. So this is common. And what I learned at this somewhat young age in my 20s, a friend of mine, their father, who was in his late 60s, he got a job with the casinos and they trained him on how all this stuff works. And when he came back from that training, I was at a dinner where he was, and I asked him about gambling. He says, look, I just got back from training. I saw how it works. You cannot control your impulses. Most people cannot control it. I would just stay away because they've got you. The system has you. So maybe you can share some of your thoughts on the brain chemistry and the first time that you learned how this worked, how that affected you in terms of your own behavior and knowing how systems of addiction work.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually the same principle actually applies to social media. But before that, yeah, it's that's actually the most potent form of addiction that you can have. It's a reward that is gonna come, but you don't know when. Because actually the most amount of dopamine is not released when you get the reward, but with the anticipation of the reward. So imagine that you're gonna get like a surprise from someone, but you don't know when and you don't know what. That's gonna spike your dopamine a lot more than knowing, okay, tomorrow you're going to get the present or the surprise. And that's, as for my knowledge till now, it's like the strongest addictive, let's say, pattern that we have in nature. I think it's called something like random intermittent reward. I think something like that. When you're sure that you're gonna get it, but you just don't know when. And as I said at the start, actually it's the same in social media if you think about it. So when you scroll, what you're doing is you are pressing on a button or on a lever of a slot machine. And when you find a post or a content that you don't like, that's when you lose on the slot machine. But when you find a post that you like, it's the same as you won on the slot machine. But the difference with that is that in the slot machine you pay with money, right? So when the money finishes, you finish playing, or you finish before because you say, okay, that's enough. But with social media, the feed, which is where you will find all your posts, it's an infinite feed. It doesn't finish. So potentially you could go on at infinite. And that's why people, they say, oh, I'm gonna spend 10 minutes, and then they spend 4 hours, because it doesn't stop, because it's always the algorithm is always learning more about you. It's always gonna give you more of what you like, but it's not gonna give them to you in sequence, because it wants you to stay there. And that's why in my program I have 3 main things when it comes to this kind of pattern. So the random reward patterns, especially with social media and YouTube. So the first one is really to avoid the classical conditioning that happens with the social media, which is basically when you get a notification, your dopamine spikes. So you get used to basically, okay, if I get a notification, then it's a post that I might like. That's dangerous because you become really accustomed to it really fast. So what I do, for example, is I don't have notifications on my phone active. And that's because with this kind of behaviors, the most important thing is never being reactive, but proactive. So if I want to go on social media, I want to go. I decide when I want to go. I don't let the social media dictate where I will, when and where I will surf it. And the second of all, then you put as much friction as possible. That's important. You need to shape your environment such that you feel lazy, let's say going on TikTok, going on Instagram. And then what I do, it's like a technique that I've been implementing for a few months now, and I call it proactive social media use, which is basically, okay, you can scroll on social media, but I want you to, while you scroll, you need to be active with your brain. So you need to pay the price with effort, in which you take notes on what you are consuming, and that way you can really see, oh, I watched 10 videos of random dogs. Do I want to do that in the future? You have that awareness now. It's not passive anymore. It's not like a zombie mode. It's like, okay, I'm actually awake, and I'm using it in a proactive way, and that's of course gives people a lot of insights. Oh, I'm really I wasted 1 hour watching animals. Okay, do you want to do that in the future? Maybe not. Maybe yes, but at least you have the awareness now. It's not automatic anymore. That's the most important part, because with awareness, then you break the cycle, and the cycle is getting dopamine for free. Now you're not getting dopamine for free. Now you are actually paying, and how you are paying? With your attention. So you're putting in effort by taking notes. You're studying what you consume. And in fact, the two things that happen often is that either they continue but with awareness, so that's good, and they use it a lot less because now there is effort involved, or either they stop because they don't want to put in the effort. And in both ways, it's a win-win, because then they can put the effort in something else, or they can rest. It's fine.
That makes sense. Make them account for what they were doing, assess it, and relate it to there's work involved when I'm doing the surfing and watching endless dog videos. So that's a good point, Ayoub. The fake rewards and the letdown after you're on video games for 20 minutes or 4 hours, there's a letdown. And the letdown is brain chemistry, and it's also the clock. You're looking at the clock and you realize that 20 minutes was gone and you can't get those 20 minutes back, or 4 hours was gone. And now all of a sudden it's dinner time and you're going to hang out with your family. They're going to ask you, your parents, at least in my generation, they asked you, how was school today? How are your grades? How was your sports? How was your relationship with your friends? All these things, which I think it's good for parents to be asking you about those things. They care about you. They're not the Gestapo. They are people who care about you. They want you to do well in life. And that's I think the most important thing for young people or anybody to remember, is that somebody cares enough about you to want to know how you're doing, what you're doing, why you're doing it, what's your future, are you developing as a person, are you getting what you want, all these types of things. And the whole idea of rebellion is fine, but if you're rebelling against everything, everybody, you're going to rebel against yourself, and then you don't have any reason for being a good, upstanding, developing human. And we're all developing. So I think those are some important things. Over to Ayoub for his comments.
Yeah, I mean, it's with video games, it's kind of tricky, because actually it's with every addiction, basically we have 3 main phases, because video games tend to be the one that's always fun for some reason. But that's not, it's like when people play a lot and they say because it's fun, they're just coping often, because again, there are 3 phases, which, okay, the first one is fun because it's something new. So the dopamine is, there's a lot of dopamine being released. The second phase, generally, it's you're escaping from some pain in your life. Let's say, I don't know, like school is not going well. You're not making that much progress in real life. So you use video game as a, let's say, to feel less stressed, because that's what they do. They shut down the amygdala, so those negative emotions, you don't feel them anymore, and that's why you feel less stressed. In reality, the stress is still there. And then we have the third phase, which is the addictive phase, in which people play, but they don't even know why. And with my program, my goal is to always be in phase one, which is it's fun. But to be fun, it needs to be new. And to be new, it means that it needs to happen not often, because if it happens often, then it's gonna become normal, not new anymore. And that's why it's really important to find other interests and to apply that gamification to the other interests as well. Like you almost have to be like, okay, I can play a video. You need to get to that point, which is what I try to do with my clients, in which you really have to look at it this way. So I can either make real progress, I don't know, in martial arts, and I know how to gamify it, or I can make fake progress in video games. That's like let's say the end goal is always to get there. So yeah, it's really, again, as you said, like you look at the clock, then you finish your video game session and you get back to reality and you're like, yeah, I just won some virtual medals, which have like no sense. I mean, I can understand like playing, there are like, if you want to become a professional video game player, that takes a lot of effort actually. But otherwise, to be honest, it's yeah, I mean, most often it's a complete waste of time. Again, I mean, I'm not saying people shouldn't have fun, but how much fun do you need per day? Like 4 hours? Like, and then like 4 hours every day. So if you multiply 4 hours for 300 days, that's how many hours you are using just for fun. I mean, and again, fun comes with a cost. Like you cannot just have fun for free. It doesn't work that way. There is always the effort component that's involved. And if you don't pay the effort, then you have to pay it in some other way, which are cravings, low motivation, brain fog. You don't want to do anything. Everything else is boring. Because again, something that people don't really think about, it's your levels of dopamine they work in relatives. So if you are always used to a lot of stimulation, something that's a little less stimulating is gonna be boring, because that's how the brain works. It gets adapted really fast. So if you smoke, if you play video games, if you drink, anything lower than that is boring, because it doesn't release the same amount of dopamine. And that's why the first one that I mentioned, they are called overstimulating activities, because there is nothing in nature naturally that's gonna spike your dopamine at those levels. And that's why people get addicted.
Ayoub, there's something that came up while you were speaking, and it's the ability to be a rebel with your brain and your attention and your awareness. So this is something that I think is fascinating. So young people look up when they're 5 years old. They look up to their brothers and sisters. They look up to their uncles, their neighbors, their parents. They look up to big people, and they even want to dress. I have pictures on my one of my articles that I wrote where there are kids in 1910, and they're dressed just like their parents and their grandparents with these big overcoats and big hats and big gloves. They're just tiny people, 5 years old, 7 years old. And they're trying to be like adults, or they're dressed like adults, and they can't wait till they can do strong things. They can work and be productive. They can learn things. And so kids are oftentimes trying to impress people. So let's say you rebelled with your advancement, so that at the dinner table, instead of your parents just asking you questions, you could ask them questions and test them. That's a lot of fun. Test your parents, test your older brothers and sisters. You just learned about the Constitution of the United States, or something related to the development of a more democratic system in Italy, whatever you're studying, a piece of literature. You read Machiavelli's The Prince. So now you can describe something 1 to 3 minutes about something that you learn, and the people at the table are seeing you as someone who's different, who's got some new experience, who's got something to share. And then when you get into a debate with someone, and I call it an open-minded discussion, you don't just have to win, you have to put ideas out there, see if you can organize them in a correct way, and see if your point helps hold together, and other people may come to your point. Maybe not right now, but maybe tomorrow they will think about it and they come back to your point. So I think there's a lot of fun you can do in your advancement, physically, mentally, spiritually, being more mature, that can be seen like being a rebel of where you are right now. As a 15-year-old, let's say, you want to be a rebel at 15. Well, why don't you read some rebel poetry or some rebel literature or some rebel history and look at those people and see what they were after and see if that's the same things you were after. And then when the teacher asked the question in class, you could raise your hand. And if you have a point of view, share that point of view. Somebody else just express something, you can rebel and counteract that point of view that they shared. So I think there's a lot of fun with advancement where you can rebel and get somewhere with it. What do you think, Ayoub?
I think that's actually why, let's say, there are many smart kids that end up playing video games instead of studying, because they don't have this ability to be this, let's say, positive rebel. So let's say their class, they are doing multiplications, and he already understood multiplication, so he would like to do more complex multiplications. Then he doesn't have that ability. He cannot go forward with it. And that's why I'm saying gamifying your life, it's so important, because then with the help of the parent or a coach, they can say, okay, these are your interests. Maybe you cannot do it in school. Okay, let's gamify your, I don't know, your guitar lessons. Let's gamify your, again, your martial arts. Let's gamify your chess play. Let's find ways so we can make you progress by putting in the effort, because you want to put in the effort. And video games, they are like a cheap trick at that point. So it really comes down to being aware of, okay, how is school going? I'm bored at school. Let's say the child or the son, it tells you, I'm really bored at school. Okay, what's make it boring? What does it make it? Because we do always the same things. Okay, then, let's think about what we can do as a family to you, because that's what happens. There are 20 students and everybody needs to be, let's say, on the same level. So if someone is already 10 steps ahead, it's gonna get really boring. So how can we do it? Maybe we homeschool you. And so let's say we don't have that possibility. Okay, we need to find activities that you enjoy, that have value, and we're gonna help you gamify them so you can progress in them. And you can, let's say, be okay with not progressing that fast in school.
Yeah, that makes sense. Gamifying it and the challenges that we have in front of us. So let's talk about challenges in regards to pain, pleasure, discomfort, and outcome. So the outcome is something I want to share. So let's take a look at the martial arts journey. You start out as a white belt and you participate and you keep that mind and that heart open and you learn things and you develop. And then eventually 6 months, a year down the road, you go for a test and you may advance into the next belt. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's blue belt. Nothing wrong with staying a white belt for a long time, being really comfortable, taking care of all your other responsibilities, work, school, family, fun, all those things. But then you want to advance and you want to push yourself a little bit. So you go to some extra practices with some more advanced belts, and then you feel confident, you're doing well against them, and then you test for your blue belt, and hopefully you pass that. Great. Now let's take a look at the journey of a hiking person. There's a trail in California. It's called the Pacific Rim Trail. So you have the coastline of California and you have the Pacific Ocean, and you have a trail that goes up California. It's called the Pacific Rim Trail. There is no way to do the Pacific Rim Trail, as far as I know, without getting calluses on the bottom of your feet. I asked somebody, I said, what if you do this? What if you do that? He goes, nope, you're still going to get calluses. What if you put in powder and you keep rotating your socks? He said, nope, you're going to get calluses. It's just the way it goes. So he told me, because you have weight in your own body, and then you put a backpack on yourself, there's so much weight that the friction on your feet against the inner sole of your shoe produces heat and produces more friction, and it just keeps doing that, right? So unless you have feet like an animal, you've seen the bottom of a dog's foot. A dog's foot has nice calluses. That's the only way. And even a dog on the Pacific Rim Trail would get cuts and blood, and they would open up their skin. That's just the way it is. However, at the end of each day and at the end of each break you take, you have a water, you have dinner. If there's a river, you might get some water and clean yourself up. You get rewards all the time when you're on this trail. You get rewards knowing that what you're doing is just like people did 200 years ago, except for we have the modern technology. And you're seeing the beauty of nature, and it just keeps going. Things pop in your mind. You may be quiet. You may share things to yourself or sing a song, or you may be with other people and you'll share those songs and those stories together. You'll play with that experience. But that's the journey, I think, like the martial arts journey, the hiker's journey, the developing activity in anything that you do, especially if it's a physical type of thing that engages the mind. That's something that I think is a great reward system. So you do have discomfort, you do have pain. Every day you're going to be in pain on that trail, but you get the rewards periodically throughout the day. Every night when you sleep, you'll sleep like a baby, as we say. And then at the end of that, when you're done and you can look at the dirt that's in all of your backpack and your clothing and all of your utensils and your shoes, your shoes are completely worn differently than they were in the beginning. You look like you've accomplished something in 4 days or 10 or 15 days. It's just incredible. And I think if you consistently sign up for things, martial arts, volleyball, swimming, whatever, and hiking, and you do these hard activities, you're going to get the pain, you're going to get the discomfort, you're going to get comfort, and you're going to get rewards and a lot of fun. And I think that's our natural heritage, is to do those hard things and attempt to survive and attempt to thrive in those hard things. You're over to you, Ayoub.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That comes down really to, again, the more we do something, the more we teach our brain that habit. So it's let's say this concept of neuroplasticity. So if I'm just overstimulating myself, then I'm shaping my brain in a certain way. So I'm shaping my brain to always be looking for a cheap trick, to always be looking at something really fast, really immediate. So that's why the process of replacement takes time, but it puts you into a condition in which, as you said, in which you are striving for that positive discomfort. And I'm calling it positive because it leads to positive comfort and pleasure as well. Because as we said at the start of this episode, we need to pay with effort so that the reward that we get, it's worthwhile. It's fair. And I think I saw an interview of a neuroscientist actually talking about it, and he went a step further. He said the reward is within the effort itself. And the more we can push on the pain button, I mean, without breaking anything, of course, that's how we get our pleasure, actually. So when we create this association with effort and actually reward. So when we associate the reward with the effort itself, then I mean, ideally we can just do everything that we want, of course, that our body, of course, lets us do, and our mind as well. There will always be some thresholds that we cannot, let's say, go over when it's
Overcome.
just too much. Yeah, overcome. Thank you.
I have a quote from C.S. Lewis, famous author. He says, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. So pain is part of life. We try to mediate pain with pills, injections, all kinds of other stimulation and calming mechanisms. I think the more we can be with that pain and learn how to process that pain, let it do its thing, there's a reason for that pain. And I think that's one of the things that people are missing out on when they try to mask that pain and hide that pain and not tell anybody else they're in pain. That's one of the first steps is you realize you're in pain. You have someone close to you or a therapist, you tell them you're in pain. Nothing wrong with that. That's it's seen today, I think, maybe at least as far back as I can see, as a sign of weakness. No, are we afraid that if we tell people we're in pain, that like the lions that have one of the lions gets injured and they can't keep up with the group, they just leave them behind? Is that what we think is going to happen to us as human beings in modern society? If we say we're in pain, do we think people won't invite us to parties or out on a date anymore if we're in pain? Very strange. I mean, to think that the pain would take us out of society and out of a norm. It's just part of life. And if the pain goes for 2 hours or 2 years, I think you have to live with it and you have to express what's going on. And hopefully society and your contacts can handle it and just be, maintain a presence with you when they can.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like there is no shame in, let's say, sharing your pain. I mean, it's more of a how you share it. Maybe that could be problematic. Like if you like, my advice will be don't wait till it's out of control. Be smart about it. So if there is a problem, just say, look, I've been working on this a lot of time and I just I didn't find a way to do it. So you can be stoic and in pain at the same time. It's not like it's just how you frame it. So instead of I don't know, like of being overly emotional, which doesn't really help you, you can be like, oh, I have this problem. I've been working on it on a month and I cannot progress on it. Do you have some advice? Do you have 10 minutes, maybe 1 hour? We can look at it together. Maybe you can give me a new angle. Really be smart about it. Like the problem is when you let something painful overwhelm you. That's when you lose control, and you may go back too many steps. What I like to say is that during, let's say, your no days in which nothing is working, what you're trying to do there is just damage mitigation. You're not looking to progress. You're just looking to, okay, let me make sure I'm not making too many steps backwards. That's what you're trying to do. It's okay. It's going to happen. Like you cannot be, let's say, happy 24/7 every day. It's not going to happen. The same way you are happy, you're going to have some low periods. And it's up to you to be like, okay, things have been going really well for a month. So if one day things are not going your way, it's okay. It's fair, actually. It's fair. You cannot just. So yeah, I mean, my biggest advice will be smart about it. Don't let it overwhelm you, and yeah, and don't feel ashamed to share. Like, again, be smart about it. Don't be like overly emotional. I'm speaking just for men in this case. I cannot speak for women because I'm not a woman, and I'm not like really sure how. I mean, in general, they are a bit more emotional than men, even though today, I mean, the the pendulum is shifting a bit, but yeah, that's for another episode maybe. and yeah, I mean, be the rational one, be more okay. Hey guys, I have this problem. Let's see how we can find different angles, because sometimes it's really like maybe there is too much tunnel visioning and we lose like the bigger picture. And it helps even like to stop. Let's stop for 1 hour. Let's relax and look at it with a fresh mind. That helps.
I have a quote from Arthur Schopenhauer. He says, life swings like a pendulum, backward and forward, between pain and boredom. So that's the other thing that we need to address is boredom. The word "I'm bored" wasn't popular when I was a kid. It became popular the more things got convenient, the more things were right in front of us. Kids complained of being bored. When I was a kid, we were outside all the time in nature and going to our friend's house or to a field or the woods. It never seemed boring. We always had to walk or bicycle or ask our parents to get somewhere. So it was all these little journeys. After school sports, we leave the school, we go out to the lockers, we change, we go to the fields, and then we're in this fun competition where we're learning, we're laughing, we're trying to win, and we're having such a good time. So life, nobody complained about being bored when I was a kid that I remember in any prominent way. It came probably more in the mid 1990s, and the fact that I was working with young people in education from time to time at that period and coaching young people. And I saw this idea of being bored. And I'm thinking, my goodness, what a problem for modern society. Or people in my grandparents' generation were trying to survive. They had one person sick with polio, another person was old and dying, and they're all, living in the same 2 or 3 bedroom place. So the survival was such a strong thing that boredom wasn't a common theme. So then it progressed through my parents and my generation, and now people complain of being bored. I don't think I'm bored ever, but I get a lot of stimulus from a variety of learning activities and connection with other activities and a lot of athletics and sports. So it's like your brain and your body is getting fired so frequently from all this activity that it's really hard to be bored. Over to you to chime in about the boredom generation.
I mean, boredom, it's really, in my experience, it's really a consequence of overstimulation. That's what happens. And it's a problem even with framing boredom, because what is boredom? Boredom is when you're not stimulated, neither negatively and positively, which is, I mean, it's actually one of my favorite states of boredom, because when you are bored, it's when your brain is calmer because it's not stimulated. So in fact, what I like to do, for example, it's when I clean my house, my brain is in a boredom state, but it's there that ideas come. I think it's I don't want to create conspiracies, but I think boredom, like this demonization of boredom, is to make sure people are not thinking, basically. Because when you're bored, and instead of stimulating yourself with music, you get a notebook and you start writing, you are going to discover a lot of things, actually, about yourself, about the world. You're going to really be able to self-reflect. So actually, I'd say boredom it's awesome. You can use it at your advantage. So next time you are bored, instead of I don't know, like playing games on your phone or scrolling social media, take a piece of paper, take a pen, and write whatever comes to your mind. You will discover so many things, and you will crave boredom. You will crave it. You will not escape it. And again, it's because dopamine is really relative. So if you if you get used to being stimulated all the time with coffee, with music, TV, video games, everything else is gonna look bored. And it's your job to look at healthier ways to stimulate yourself, which again will be, as you said, martial arts, journaling, writing, hiking. Those are, so your dopamine sources basically are like your food sources. So instead of eating, I don't know, a banana, what you're doing with overstimulation is eating like a processed, I don't know, like banana bar, like something really processed that, yeah, is gonna taste really good, and then your stomach is gonna hurt because again you have to pay the price. That's what happens to me, at least. If I eat biscuits, after half an hour my stomach is hurting. So I have to thank my my let's say my digestive system for telling me, look, you need to pay. You cannot just get away with it for free. So that's the pain I'm getting back for, let's say, overeating cookies or biscuits.
One of the things I coach people on, Ayoub, is the idea of being high and stimulated from doing the right thing. So what is the right thing? Well, obviously, if I was inside after sitting to eat dinner, doing some stretches before going to bed, and then going to sleep. Last night was 6 hours and 2 minutes of sleep. I got up and it was rainy here in Vienna, and I could have just laid in bed and done nothing, or I could have laid in bed and watched a video, or I could have laid in bed and worked. But my program for the last 35, 38 years has been to get out of the house early and go do some physical activity. So I did some warm-up type things and some foam and tennis ball rolling in my condo. And then I went out when it was just stopped raining, and I went for a run in the city here in Vienna. And then I did some exercises. So then I came back and I was stimulated. I was happy in mind, body, and spirit. I read some signs. I practiced my German. I saw people out doing their physical movement. I saw them walking their dogs. I saw the day beginning. You know, it was between 6 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. when I did this. So I got to see the day beginning in a cloudy day in Vienna in the summertime, which was very nice. So I get a good chance, if I do that, of feeling good in mind, body, and spirit. How that helps my digestion, because I'm not just being clogged up with the food that I eat. I'm actually using it in a physical way. And then my brain, I have to do a lot of writing and computer work today. I had to do a nice discussion, wanted to have my brain really working for this discussion with Ayoub. And so that program is part and parcel. It's the reason why I have a good chance of having a good day, because I did something that was the right thing. It was hard, but it's my normal thing. So it's not so hard, because it's just like people, you know, cleaning up their place or walking their dog or brushing their teeth. It's just another part of the day. And I don't see it as this big transformational thing where I have to get fit. I'm already fit, and I'm just going out and using a fit body on something that I know it can do. So that's one thought. Tell me about a daily practice that you think that has been helpful to you, Ayoub.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's like starting the day in the right way. It's really important, and I can see the difference with myself, because before, like 1 year ago, I used to get up like 10 minutes before work, and I mean, you get up and you get on your computer and you get nervous really fast because you haven't gotten sunlight, you haven't moved, you haven't washed your face properly. So what I've been doing in the past months, it's I'm trying to get up as early as I can. And then first thing that I do is I go for a walk. I get some water in and I go for a walk. Ideally, if there is grass, I walk barefoot, because I've been researching now this earthing and grounding, I think they call it, which is I don't know, it's given I feel like it's giving my body like some calmness, some power, and I like it. I don't know, maybe it's a placebo, but I mean it's working, so it's fine. And then sunlight, that's been a good addition, let's say, to my routine. And then what I do, it's, I mean, I don't stay that much out. It could be literally 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I just make sure that the sunlight is hitting, let's say, my eyes. I mean, not directly, but I'm making sure some sunlight is getting into my body, my eyes to get up properly, let's say. And then I get home. I read a bit, I do my daily prayers, and then I start my day. Maybe I do some breathing, and then I start working. And I found out for me that the morning, it's like the best to do like hard things. So if I need to concentrate a lot, it's better to do it in the morning. Because if I do it in the evening, then I am too overstimulated when I go to bed. And it gets hard for me like to fall asleep. Yeah, those yeah. And I'm working more on a shutdown routine, which is like stretching, some breathing, and some prayers as well, which has been working well, so that's good. And then what I do when I cannot sleep, basically it's I take my notebook and I write down my thoughts, whatever they are, and that helps in let's say getting the stress away, let's say, because you're putting your stress in paper in a certain way. That helps a lot. And I mean, worst case scenario, you have like 100 ideas that you can just explore. So better than forgetting them.
I have a couple of quotes, Ayoub, to help us wind down our discussion.
Yep.
One is by James Herriot. It's nice and short. It's cats are connoisseurs of comfort. And now we go over to the Vincent van Gogh. Art is to console those who are broken by life. There's a person who had a lot of turmoil in his life. And now for the large cats, a quote by Colleen Houck. A tiger only needs 3 things to be comfortable: lots of food, sleep, and actually, no, it's just 2 things. That's a funny quote. Food and sleep, and a tiger comfortable. So any last thoughts before we wind down, Ayoub?
Yeah, I mean, my last thoughts will be to really to everybody that's listening and that's not listening as well. It's to really just try this exercise. So the next time you wake up, take a notebook with you and literally write down everything that you do, everything. And then what you do is you create 3 columns, not 2. And on one column, you put your overstimulating activities, which will be something like you get a reward without any effort. It could be coffee as well, because even coffee, like you are drinking something that's, let's say, waking you up. But I mean, did you do the work to wake up? Not really, right? And then you have the neutral things, which will be like, I don't know, like brushing your teeth or cleaning the house. It's not, I mean, yeah, cleaning the house, maybe it's more on the right side, but it's fine. Cleaning your house, let's say it's a neutral activity. And then you have on the On the last column, you have activities that give you pleasure but require an effort from you. So do this exercise, and that's when you will know why you are bored, maybe. Because if you have too many things that are overstimulating you, then you will be bored. I guarantee it. And it's not gonna be a good boredom. It's gonna be a boredom of like a stressful boredom. Something like, okay, something is missing. I don't feel good. Yeah, just I think doing it for 1 day, 2 days, maybe 3 days is gonna tell you a lot of your situation. And that's an exercise I get my client to do, by the way. So, and it works. It works.
Wonderful. Last quote, and then we'll wind down. Final word, Ayoub will put his handle in the comments down below. And I'm Sifu Slim at sifuslim.com. And here's the quote: nothing prevents happiness like the memory of happiness. I don't even want to comment on that. I want people to think about that. So we ask for your thumbs up and your subscriptions and your comments down below. And Ayoub and I will be back very soon with another discussion. And we hope you folks enjoyed this, and we'll talk again soon.